The first time I had to pick between Claude Code, Codex, and Antigravity for a team, I did what everyone does. I pulled up the benchmark and asked which one scored highest. That was the wrong question, and it cost me a week to figure out why. Because on the benchmark, everyone quotes, SWE-bench Verified, all three are tied. They sit in the high 70s to high 80s. And when everyone in the room gets an A, the grade stops telling you who to hire, so throw the scoreboard out. The real question was never which agent is smartest. It's which one fits your team, your code base, and the control you actually need. Stick with me and you'll leave with a one-line rule that makes the choice for you. Welcome to AI Tech Book. Today, the three-way everyone argues about and nobody scores honestly: Claude Code, OpenAI Codex, and Google Antigravity. By the end, you'll know which one wins for your team, decided by surface, not by score. Now, the benchmark is saturated doesn't mean we can't compare at all. There's a harder one, SWE-bench Pro, that does separate them, so why not use that? I tried. Here's what I ran into. It comes down to who's holding the stopwatch. On SWE-bench Pro, each lab reports its own model on its own setup, its own harness, its own retrieval, its own turn budget. Anthropic's table shows its model ahead. That's Anthropic's table. The only genuinely neutral standardized scoreboard is Scales. And right now, it doesn't even have entries for two of the three. There is no apples to apples, three-way score. Every per tool number you'll see is a model number measured on that vendor's own bench. Useful as a vibe, dishonest as a verdict. The decision has to come from something the benchmark never measures. And here's the thing the benchmark completely hides, the thing that finally unlocked it for me. These three don't have the same shape. They are not three brands of one product. Claude Code is a terminal agent. It lives in your command line, reads your code base, edits files, runs commands, and the same engine fans out to your editor, a desktop app, and the web. Its newer dynamic workflows let one session fan out into hundreds of parallel helpers and merge their work back into one answer. Codex is a cloud delegation agent. It lives in ChatGPT. You hand it a task, it works in an isolated cloud sandbox, and it proposes a pull request with an open source command line tool as a local door. Antigravity is an agent-first editor. You dispatch and watch parallel agents from a manager surface, a shell you live in, a cloud you delegate to, an editor you manage from. That difference, the surface, is the real decision. The first thing I started sorting by wasn't smarts, it was autonomy. How much do you want the tool running without you, and where does that happen? Claude Code keeps you in the loop in your terminal. You drive, it assists, you watch it work step by step. Codex moves one notch toward delegation. You describe a task, it goes off to a cloud sandbox, and it comes back with a pull request to review. Antigravity goes furthest from its manager surface. You dispatch several agents at once and supervise them like a fleet, reviewing the evidence they bring back. Picture your own role sliding along that line from driver to delegator to manager. None of those is better. It's how hands-on you want to be. The second thing I learned to check is lock-in. Every one of these marries you to something. The question is what and how tightly. Claude Code is locked to Anthropic's models, though its terminal and editor surfaces do support some outside providers. Codex is locked to OpenAI's models, but with a twist. The command line tool itself is open source, so you can read it and self-host the agent, even though the model stays OpenAI's. Antigravity is the most model open of the three. It'll run Gemini, Claude, or an open source GPT model, your choice. But the editor around them is Google's. Watch where each lock actually sits. One locks the model, one locks the model but opens the agent. One opens the model but locks the editor. Different freedom, different leash. The third thing is the slick demo skip, and the one that should weigh most. How much can each one do that you didn't intend? Codex has the strongest, most explicit control, an operating system enforced sandbox with network access off by default, plus an approval policy you set. Because its command line tool is open source, you can audit exactly what it's allowed to do. Claude Code gives you per action permission prompts, plus a config file and hooks to gate edits and commits, strong control you own. Antigravity is the one that made me nervous. Independent reviewers documented an indirect prompt injection vulnerability and even file system deletion incidents with a blunt verdict: don't give it write access to anything you can't afford to lose. For real production code, that difference outranks any benchmark. Fourth, the practical one, which fits the code you actually have, And what does it cost? Claude Code is built for large existing repositories. In independent tests, it's praised for reasoning across distant parts of a codebase and getting complex refactors right the first try. You pay in vendor lock-in and metered cost when you lean on it hard. Codex fits ticket-driven teams. Describe a well-scoped ticket, get a pull request back. It slots into delegate and review work, and it's bundled into ChatGPT plans with no standalone price. Antigravity is the fastest and cheapest for greenfield prototyping, free in preview and quick, but reviewers hit extra correction cycles, and that free tier has been cut hard since launch. Big repo and correctness, ticket and pull request out, or fast, cheap prototype. Match the tool to the work you mostly do. So far, we've split them by surface. Here's what actually makes each one worth picking: the move only it can pull off. Claude Code turns one terminal session into a governed team, sub-agents, each with its own context, a reviewer, a test runner, a security checker, fenced by hooks that fire mechanically, like running the test before it stops, or blocking edits to generated files. Its newest trick, Claude Tag, is a persistent teammate that lives in Slack with its own identity, and opens pull requests as itself. Codex's signature is fire, and forget delegation, hand it several tasks at once. Each runs in a separate hardened cloud sandbox. Network off by default, your repo preloaded, and they all come back as reviewable pull requests. And Antigravity's is the one neither of the others does. It drives a real Chrome to test its own work. It clicks, it fills forms, it screenshots, it loops back to fix what broke, and hands you the recording as proof. 3 different superpowers. The one you need tells you which to pick. Features get you excited. This is the slide that actually decides it. Because the question that kills a rollout isn't is it good, it's will security let us use it. On compliance, 2 of the 3 walk through. Claude Code and Codex both carry what a security review demands: SOC2, ISO, HIPAA ready, zero data retention, single sign-on. Antigravity has no comparable published compliance. For a regulated team, that's a closed door. Then the cost trap, and each hides a different one. Claude Code is flat until enterprise, where it flips to a seat fee plus metered tokens, and Opus's tokenizer can bill up to 1/3 more for the same work. Codex feels free inside ChatGPT until the 5-hour window runs out, and quietly drops you into credit burn. And Antigravity has the lowest sticker, but Google cut its quotas 4 times in 4 months, with lockouts lasting days, even for paying users. One bright spot: Codex's command line tool is open source, and its config is nearly interchangeable with Claude Code's, so switching between those two is cheap. Before you give any of these write access to your real code, look at what each has actually done. Antigravity has the worst record. Researchers found a remote code execution hole, patched. Then a second team found a persistent backdoor that survived an uninstall and reinstall, and Google's first response was to close it as won't fix intended behavior. That's the trust deficit on the record. Claude Code had its own rough patch. Users said it got dumber for 6 weeks. But the cause was a product bug, not the model. Reasoning effort was silently turned down, and a cache cleared its history. Anthropic traced it, published a postmortem, and fixed it. A different signal entirely. They showed their work. And Codex. In a real hardware build, tested head-to-head, it locked onto the wrong approach and failed the task, where Claude Code finished on the first try. Brilliant in its lane, brittle outside it. Track record is the part the demos never show you, and the part that should weigh most when it's your codebase on the line. Put all 4 of those together, and the question finally has answers plural by team. A large, quality-critical existing repo. Claude Code, the deepest reasoning and first try correctness. You accept the lock-in and the metered cost. A security or compliance-conscious org. Codex, the hardened sandbox, and the auditable, open-source command line tool. You accept OpenAI as your model. A ticket-driven team living in Linear or Jira. Codex again, delegate and review fits like a glove. Power user scripting in the shell. Claude Code, it's built to pipe and compose. Rapid prototyping, speed and cost first. Antigravity, fastest and cheapest as long as you respect the security caveat. And a shop that refuses single vendor lock-in. Antigravity, the only one running 3 models in one place. Notice what decided every single row: the surface, the control, the fit. Never one benchmark number. If you forget the whole matrix, keep one sentence. It carries all of it. Claude Code for the code base you can't break. Codex for the workflow you must control. Antigravity for the prototype you can afford to lose. That's the entire decision in one line. The code base you can't break wants the deepest reasoning. The workflow you must control wants the hardened, auditable sandbox. And the prototype you can afford to lose wants the fastest, cheapest, most model open tool, risk and all. Each key fits exactly one lock. Not the highest score, the right fit. Pick by the surface, not the score. 4 things to keep from the 3-way. 1. Benchmarks can't crown a winner. They're saturated and reported on each vendor's own bench. 2. These are 3 different surfaces: a terminal agent, a cloud delegation agent, and an agent-first editor. 3. Control and security are the quiet decider for anything touching real code. And 4. The rule: Claude Code for the code base you can't break. Codex for the workflow you must control. Antigravity for the prototype you can afford to lose. Name your project's risk level, and your tool picks itself. That's the 3-way, settled by surface, not score. If this helped you choose, share it with one person who's stuck on the same decision. And subscribe to AI Tech Book. Next, we go deep on each one: Antigravity explained, and Codex explained, the full anatomy of how they actually work. Thanks for watching.